Go Jackets.
What is going on, everyone, and welcome to WreckTalk. How are you guys doing? Apologies, this is the first video I've put out this week. Live show didn't work out Monday, and I kind of took that as a sign from the college football gods, the college football universe, whatever you want to say, that, hey, it's been an insane season. This is the most emotionally draining season I've ever been through as a Tech fan. So I took some time this week just to take a breath. But then I got to thinking, it's not just this year. This one has been up and down. At least there were some ups. But almost the last decade has just been an emotional roller coaster for Tech fans. So I'm going to go back what led us into 2023. We'll talk about this year's offense and defense, who might leave and go to the portal, who do I think will stay, what bowls are we likely to go to, and what does the future look like for Georgia Tech. So to start off, I want to take you guys back. We're going back to 2014. So nearly a decade ago. 2014, I'm pretty sure, is the last time we beat both of our rivals, Clemson and Georgia, in the same year. We go 11-3. We beat a pretty good Mississippi State team that was ranked second in the country at one point that year in the Orange Bowl. We're on top of the world. Nearly beat Florida State. I think we only lost by 2 or 3 points, a field goal or something, to win the ACC that year. And Florida State, I do believe, won the national championship that year. Then we get into 2015. We go 3-9. I think the first time we'd missed a bowl in about 17 years. We had one of the longest bowl streaks in the country. Our only Power 5 win was Florida State. For some reason, we've kind of had Florida State's number a few times. But absolutely demoralizing season. We beat two nobodies like HBCUs in Florida State that year. And yeah, I know, hey, we had a lot of injuries that year, whatnot. It shouldn't matter. I mean, every team is going to have injuries. I know that we were kind of in a bad spot that year. We did not have a lot of depth, and that showed up. And then 2016 comes around. We go 9-4 with a win over Georgia. By the way, 2016, that was our last bowl victory. It's not our last bowl appearance, but the last time we won a bowl game. We won over Kentucky 33-18 in the Gator Bowl. And I'm kind of skimming over the fact that we were the only Power 5 team in the country to run the triple option, which was kind of fun to watch, admittedly, but it did set us back as a program from the standpoint of recruiting and just football in general. Like, Haynes King never comes to Georgia Tech if we run the triple option, and neither does Zach Pyron. Even really good running backs are not going to run it because they're not featured. It's dependent on what the defense does. So Cooley probably doesn't come. Like the first 4 running backs we have in our rotation are not on our roster if we run the triple option. So I had kind of glanced over that. We kind of had to eat crap with that too. 2017, so we go from Orange Bowl 3-9, 9-3 with another win over your rival. 2017, miss a bowl again, 5-6. And this is what I think is sometimes glossed over by like people that just really, really love Paul Johnson. And I like Paul Johnson too. He's a Hall of Fame coach. Toward the end of his career, the lack of recruiting and really lack of depth that created started to show up toward the end of his career. I'm trying to think the best recruiting class he had, probably 30-something, but maybe even 40th. You're just not going to be successful in college football when you're not going to compete for your conference if you're not in the top 25 in recruiting. That I do know. So we miss a bowl, 5-6, and then 2018 you go 7-5. 2018 was the last time we made a bowl appearance. We got handled by Minnesota, 34-10 though. So I was ready to move on. Evidently Paul was before he left too, but Stansbury convinced him to stay. Then we get Collins, and I was excited. I thought it was a really good hire. Most people thought it was a really good hire. Came in, really showed, and I guess we should have seen it then that he kind of talked like a fan. He really shouldered into the modern offense, how difficult the transition was going to be. And I'm not saying it wasn't. It was a really difficult transition. But there's like crazy stats I can give you about Collins that you're like, that's not true. Never had consecutive wins. Not consecutive conference wins, not consecutive ranked wins, not, consecutive Power 5 wins. He never won back-to-back games in 3 years plus 4 games here. His average margin of a loss to his rival, Georgia, 45 points. Insane. He goes 3-9, 3-7 in a weird COVID year, which he liked to talk about a lot. 3-9 in 2021. And I think that's when most Tech fans started to realize, like, okay, we've been sold a bill of goods here. This isn't going to work. Start off with the loss to NIU, yada, yada, yada. For some reason, we signed Collins to a 7-year deal. Turns out that was such a stupid contract. The guy that offered it was fired, Todd Stansbury. So, I mean, think about this just roller coaster. I'm in a glass box full of emotion. That's what Tech fans have been through. Orange Bowl, miss a bowl. 9 wins, miss a bowl. Make a bowl, get blown out in a bowl. Geoff Collins. That's what we've been through. We move on from him. Key wins consecutive games in his first 2 games as interim. Not only are they 2 consecutive wins, it's conference wins and division wins. Pittsburgh and Duke. So now for the second time, we have to do a total staff turnover. All right. When Collins came in, total staff turnover. Now we're doing it again 4 years later. Bring in Buster Faulkner, which has proven to be a fantastic hire. He's in the running for some national awards as an assistant. In fact, Georgia Tech's total offense is 34th in the country right now with 429 yards per game on average. Number 1 rush offense in conference. So no one's running for more yards in the ACC than Georgia Tech is. And our rush offense is number 16 in the country. So it's been really, really good. Now, I said this is the most emotional season I've been through, though. And it's because I've had the highest expectations that I've had in probably more than a decade. With Paul, I kind of knew it was going to be up and down. You would hit on a year, but you probably wouldn't maintain, 9 or 10 wins consistently. After the first year or second year, I knew what I was getting with Collins. I had high expectations for this year. We start out with an emotional loss to Louisville. Didn't know at the time how good Louisville was. Turns out they're the first or second best team in the conference. Then we we play South Carolina State. We do, I guess, on paper blow them out, but it felt horrible. They were able to run all over us. And as we're moving along, we have no idea how bad our defense is, right? I went to Ole Miss. It was a ton of fun. That game on paper looks like a blowout when it was much closer. And a lot of Tech fans felt like, okay, well, we had two close ones that got away from us. We can mount, we got to start getting some wins, but I think we got a pretty good team going in. We stay on the road, go to Wake. Wake turns the ball over like 5 times. It still comes down to the wire. So we win, but it doesn't feel great, right? Glad we got out of there with a win, but how are we +4 turnover margin and it takes to the last possession to seal that game up, basically. And we see the pattern emerging, loss, win, loss, win. Just up and down. Oh, my goodness. I'm still exhausted from this season. Then Bowling Green happens. We come back home. We lose 38-27 to Bowling Green, and it was never even remotely that close. Bowling Green, a group of 5 school, absolutely laid the wood to us, gave us the ass beating of a lifetime in our home stadium. And I was ready to throw in the towel and just be like, there's no point in this. If we can't beat Bowling Green, how are we beating Miami, North Carolina, Georgia, Syria? Like, how do we have a chance? We might go 3-9. That's what I thought. And you talk about the roller coaster. Then we go on the road to Miami. We demote Thacker, which I still think was not the right call. All right. Does our defense look any better after demoting him? No. No, it doesn't. It looks the exact same. Promote Kevin Scher. And Miami said, we really don't want to win. They tipped their plays, so we knew if they were running or throwing. They didn't take a knee, questionable, fumble. We drive down the field, win the game. So we go from the lowest of lows in season to the highest of highs. Remember at the time, Miami was undefeated. We gave them their first loss. They were thinking playoffs. If you read things on Twitter with Miami fans, they were thinking playoffs or bust. And it gave us great pleasure to deliver them that first loss. Then we have a bye going into Boston College. So we're at loss, win, loss, win. Yeah, loss, win, loss, win, loss, win. We're on the third cycle, the third period of the loss, win. And we have a bye going into Boston College. Boston College, one of the 2 teams picked to be worse in conference than Georgia Tech. And if we can't beat them with a bye week to prepare, we don't need to be playing football. We lose to Boston College at home, 38-23. And it's at this point that we really realized how bad the defense was. Really worst rush defense in the country, about 120th total defense. We have, trouble stopping a runny nose. And that Castanella's quarterback is real. That kid's from Waycross. He's fantastic. He ran all over us. But at this point, look, we've identified we got a front 7 issue, front 6, front 7 issue. And then we have North Carolina, who had their only loss was to Virginia, and I figured they're gonna blow us out of the water. They're gonna absolutely blow us out of the water. They've been focused with an embarrassing loss. They're coming to Bobby Dodd, but they tend to travel well. And we hang 46 points on those idiots. Like completing the loss, win. The emotions. Beat them in a night game at Bobby Dodd. We could not be stopped. We ran for like 350 yards on them, handed them their second loss, and absolutely broke them for the third year in a row. Man. Then we have Virginia, a team that we have not played well, that's really owned us. This would have been the fourth consecutive win had they pulled it off. And we break the lost win voodoo. We get consecutive wins for the first time in 2023. And we're sitting on 5, one game away from bowl eligibility. That, again, hasn't happened since 2018. I felt good going on the road at Clemson. Turns out they were playing a lot better, absolutely beat us off the field. And basically we've got to get a win against Syracuse, who doesn't have a quarterback. And we struggled against Syracuse. Like, this defense has got some major issues. Major issues. And we continue loss, win, loss going throughout the year. Most emotional season I've been through, just absolute craziness in the past decade in Tech football. So we're 6-6 this year, 5-3 in the ACC. Haynes King, 2,755 yards, sitting on 26 touchdowns. Killer with the 15 picks, though. I'm not sure if he's still tied for first in the country with interceptions, but it's not great. However, he has 648 yards, 9 touchdowns on the ground. So he still could, if he had just a silly, stupid bowl game. All right. Now, what would he have to do to break both records? He'd have to throw, to break them, not just tie them, he'd have to throw for 4 touchdowns in the air, 331 yards passing. So he could get to the single season yardage record. I think that's more likely than throwing four touchdowns through the air. But one of the greatest, he's currently second in single season touchdowns and fourth in single season yardage. So Haynes King, probably the best or most effective for his team quarterback out of the portal, right? Dante Smith showed up in the second half of the season. Jamal Haynes, absolutely fantastic wide receiver playing running back. This offensive line is the real deal. The only person we're losing is Scaglione, the Princeton transfer. There's a reason we have the number 1 rush offense in the ACC, and it's not because we have world beater running backs. They're good. It's because this offensive line is nasty, all right? And that's the one position group other than quarterback. If you can choose to get right, it's offensive line. On defense, it's defensive line. Now, it's complete opposite on defense. We are going to most likely move on from Scherer. I'm sure Thacker will be gone. So we're gonna have to hire a new DC and pay out some coaches on the defensive side. Sucks because that's going to hurt you in some ways in recruiting. It might help you depending on who you hire and some others. But we need 2 linebackers that can step into the shoes of Ely and Thomas for what they were for us last year. And we need 2 really good defensive linemen. We need 1 really good interior defensive lineman to add, and we need 1 really good pass rusher. We were not able to get much pressure at all. We couldn't get enough pressure to stop a nosebleed this year, and that's going to have to change. I mean, you just think of what could have been if we would have had a marginally good defense this year. Didn't happen, though, so we've got to correct that going into the offseason. As far as transfer portal, from everything I've seen, we've done a pretty good job at just honing in what we have. A lot of people have talked about Eric Singleton Jr. From people I've talked with close to the program, he's not going anywhere. Now, if C-Dog talked about it. If he's offered a big enough bag, he'll go. what was it? Zamari Walton had a hype video done. As soon as they were done editing it, he said, "Hey, you just sit at the computer, do my hype video for Ole Miss now." Like, it was insane. I don't necessarily wish bad on them, but the hell with them. I mean, I don't know why you would, if you were thinking about transferring, why you would make such a definitive "I'm staying" stance. Anyways, Eric Singleton Jr. I think will be fine. If I had to put numbers on it, I'd say 70% likelihood he stays, 30% he goes. Obviously, Jamie Felix has given his intention to leave. I'm pretty sure he was a 4-star. For whatever reason, he sank to the bottom of the depth chart. Don't know what that's about. Wish him the best. I think we're going to be okay at running back, though. Cooley, the only one we're losing is Smith. We've got some running back recruits coming in. I think we're going to be fine. The one that I'm really worried about getting pulled out of the portal is like McKinney. Yeah, I think if you need a solid offensive lineman, he's a tackle, he'd be the one to pull, And everyone needs decent offensive linemen. It's a long season, injuries. I could see someone offering him, even any one of our linemen. Honestly, I could see someone offering. I know there's been a lot of talk about Zach Pyron. From everything I've heard, he's committed to staying at Tech, which is great. I love to hear that. Haynes King isn't going anywhere. We might lose one or two more people that we don't really hear much of, people in backup roles. I don't think we're losing any major contributors to our offense or defense, truth be told. Well, things just keep happening. So I do see on Twitter, like as I was recording the video, Kyle Kennard has hit the portal, which is a huge loss. I mean, we're already thin on the defensive line. I assume that's an NIL thing. So he's probably going to get paid, but he was probably our best pass rusher this year as far as just getting to the quarterback off the defensive line. I think we'll have a few more off the defense, and this is kind of what I was talking about with most likely staff turnover, particularly at the head of your defense at coordinator. Now, we have offered a few more. From what I've seen, we're really focusing on defensive linemen and really focusing on linebackers, which is good to see because we desperately need it. Like, if we're going to progress, if we're going to win more games next year than we do this year, it is going to start with repairing this defensive front. And just as an aside, I do think something needs to happen with the way the portal is done. Now, you can transfer, from what I've seen, 3 times, barring like a Tez Walker situation where the NCAA just comes out of nowhere and says, "Oh yeah, he's eligible, no explanation needed." You get 1 free transfer. If you graduate, and I agree with this, these first 2, if you graduate, you can transfer without penalty. That makes sense to me. If you have a coaching change, you can transfer without penalty. I agree with those 3. So you can transfer up to 3 times without having to sit a year or lose any eligibility. However, with NIL and the way it's done, you basically have free agency, unrestricted free agency every offseason. The nice thing about like in the NFL is if a guy's sitting on a large contract, like you have to pay his contract, right? Same with coaches in college football. If you're going to buy the coach, you got to pay him out of his contract. I think that's the way it should be in college football too. Possibly you have to pay a percentage of his NIL value to that school. That way the school is getting something. And look, it's not going to matter for a lot of teams, they'll have the money to just pay whatever. I do think there needs to be some recompense toward the team that you're snatching them from, though. Otherwise, it's just going to create greater and greater parity in college football. And I look, if you're not a Tech fan, you're probably saying, "Oh, it's just sour grapes. You're just mad." No, I mean, what it comes down to is, what do you want college football to be? Do you want it to become more and more? Really, there's 4 teams that are in the playoffs every year, and no one else has a chance. And I know we're going to the 12-team playoff. Or for the 90% of fans that don't root for those 4 teams, have it be somewhat more competitive, because it's not even like I said, the NFL, where you at least have to pay that team something, or in Major League Baseball, where you have to eat someone's contract if you get in a bad contract. And that's the other thing. I think we're at the point now where you need to have, along with the scholarship, there needs to be a very clear-cut contract. I've done a video on this in the past as well, where you have a contract where it's like, okay, here's the NIL offering. Let's just, for math's sake, say it's $100,000. And you could do like a 2, 3, or 4 year commitment. You could even do a 1-year commitment. Let's just say you do a 2-year commitment. If for every year you don't complete, so let's just say it's a 4-year commitment, $100,000, and you leave after the second year. Well, then you owe us, let's say, 30% of it back. Maybe it's 15% a year you lose that you don't complete. Something like that. I think that would be reasonable. That would kind of rein in some of it, and it gives something back to the school. So anyways, like I said, Kennard out, probably losing, I would say, 2 or 3 more. I haven't seen anything on the offense. A lot of it's coming off the defensive side of the ball, but like I said, we're really hitting the portal hard on the defensive front. So back to my other recorded video. Bowls, last thing. This video is really long and kind of schizophrenic. I know. Welcome to WreckTalk. There's 3 bowls that I see talked about at this juncture as of today. One we've already talked about, Pinstripe Bowl, that's played at absolutely disgusting ass Yankee Stadium against Rutgers or Northwestern. Well, one of the two. I'm not going to that. I mean, I'll obviously watch it and stream it, but I'm not going to the Bronx. I've seen the Gasparilla Bowl. That's in Tampa, Florida, against Central Florida. It's better than going to New York and playing Rutgers, but And the one that really gets me excited, I think we're completely out of the Gator Bowl. That's not happening. That's probably North Carolina, Clemson, or something, or Tennessee, North Carolina. Not North Carolina, Clemson. That's an SEC, ACC matchup. Don't listen to me. Military Bowl in Annapolis, Maryland against SMU, I think would make total sense, and I would be really excited about. SMU coming into the conference, even though they're not Power 5 and Cal and Stanford are, I think they bring the most to the ACC out of those 3 schools. It would be great to see an ACC, like a future ACC, current ACC matchup in the Military Bowl. I might actually go to that if we were to play SMU. So that's kind of what I have my fingers crossed for. Like, I think it's completely out of the realm of possibility that we pick up Auburn in a bowl or go to the Gator Bowl. I think realistically, it's going to be one of these 3 that I just mentioned. So let me know what you think about this season. As I've said, it's just, I've got way grayer hair now after this season, after this decade. Probably why I'm an early gray is this past decade of tech sports. What was it like for you as a fan? If you're not a Tech fan, what was it like looking at this as at the periphery? This has to be one of the weirdest seasons a team has ever had. So let me know in the comment section. We'll be doing a live show tonight. I hope to see you guys there. Y'all have a good one.